offering so much accessibility at the sake of the security and the confidence in our elections. And that's precisely what a good county clerk needs to balance. At the moment, when we have all mail-in ballots right now, there's a lot of scrutiny happening about all mail-in ballots and where those extra ballots go and how easily accessible it is. So that sort of leads into voter fraud, voter ID, and a lot of other subsections of the election argument in general. But I think it's absolutely something that I would strive for, is to get everyone as involved in the elections as we can. That's why we're here.
Bo?
Well, the question, can you repeat the question?
Sure.
One more time?
I said that you have worked towards making sure the largest number of voters are able to take part in elections.
I certainly agree with that. I have worked to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to vote. You know, when he talks about mail ballots and possible fraud, we're talking about something that has been around since 1993. In 2012, 74% of Coloradoans voted by mail. So when we went to the legislature in 2013, we said, why are we doing this only for odd year elections? It should be every kind of election. Elections should be uniform in Colorado. They should, every election that is coming for your area, you should know that you're going to get a ballot. You should know where the polling places are. You should know the rules and everything that goes around with those rules. At that point in 2012, there was counties that were doing all mail ballots for the primary. There was some that were doing polling places. So it was very easy for citizens to get confused. We made it uniform. And I believe that no matter where you are in this county, in this state, whether you're in Otero County, El Paso County, Denver County, Pueblo County, you know how ballots are going to be delivered to you, you know the rules, and voter confusion is no longer an issue.
One other thought would be, at the same time that we made a unified code, so to speak, we also took some local power away from certain municipalities, specifically in the form of residency requirements. And I think that was a big downfall of that legislation. Certain municipalities and jurisdictions, such as a school district, you had to live there 18 days to vote in their school district, or a fire district, you had to live there 20 days or 30 days. And a lot of those local places were different, but that was their local control. That's what they had decided on in a city charter or what have you. So I think there's a balance that needs to strike between unifying everything and making it uniform and taking local control away from elections.
Can I respond to that? Once again, I think my opponent is confused. Municipalities do not need to contract with the county clerk's office or follow Title I in order to run elections. They can run them by their charter, like self-rule, or if they're a home rule county. We worked with them very closely during 2013 for the November election, and we did honor their 30-day residency here in Pueblo County, even though that we were running their election. So local control is still in place. And now in 2014, we passed a law and made municipal code uniform. So now municipal code is the same as state code. So I think we have made the law better even since then.
Can I do one more? No confusion here. The key words there is we did and we used to. As of 2014, there are no more residency requirements. They went to 0 days through all municipalities, and we unified that, and that is an issue, I think.
To be able to vote in Colorado, you have to be here in the state of Colorado 22 days. That is uniform. If you want to register to vote for the first time, it is 0 days. You can register to vote the same day because you're an American citizen, you are over 18 years old, You are a resident of Colorado, and you have been in Colorado for 22 days. Shouldn't you have the right to vote? I think you should.
I would completely agree on that point. The problem is, you just hit it. Different counties have 0 days now. So if you decide that you want to move to Colorado Springs right in the middle of the election, you can. And you don't have to prove that you've lived in Colorado Springs. You simply have to prove that you lived in Colorado for 22 days. And that brings up the issue of gypsy voting, essentially. And that is where my concern lies.
Okay. This is it. Last time.
Gypsy voting, I'm so glad he brought that up. First of all, that term is very racist in my opinion. The second thing is, it's a myth. If he can quote one instance of gypsy voting, and one instance, well, actually he can quote one instance of gypsy
John
voting.
Caldera.
John Caldera went and tried to make a point. But their contention is that busloads of people were going to go from county to county and vote. And I think that is a myth that's promulgated to make sure that they can stop this new law from happening and complain about it, and thus disenfranchise voters.
Okay. As entertaining as this ping pong game is, we will move on to our next question. And Bo, you'll answer this one first. Do you think it's possible in today's era for someone or a group to run an organized, orchestrated campaign to manipulate and maybe even illegally determine the outcome of an election in Pueblo County?
That's a very interesting question. I don't believe that somebody could do that. I've lived in Pueblo County since the 1970s, and keeping a secret in Pueblo County is impossible. You tell one person that, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to, move all these people, and they're going to register in District 1 or District 3 or Senate District 46 or Senate District 47, and that rumor would get out. You can't even send emails between Mr. Severance and without the chieftain knowing about it. So, I think it's highly unlikely and impossible for that to happen here. But not only that, but if we see a pattern in the elections department, we will investigate it. If we see a pattern and we think that it's something illegal is going on, we send that to the DA Chostner for investigation. And I guarantee DA Chostner is going to get to the bottom of it, and he's going to prosecute who is breaking the law.
Can you repeat it? Sure. Do you think it's possible today for someone or a group to run an organized, orchestrated campaign to manipulate and perhaps even illegally determine the outcome of an election in the county?
So if we're talking about inside or outside, voter fraud essentially as a whole here, I think you have to differentiate from inside or outside the clerk's office. On the outside, mail-in ballots are out. There's ballots that go to dead people. There's ballots that people throw away because they don't feel like voting. They go to P.O. boxes that they're no longer there. So there's a lot of extra ballots that can float. A lot is relative to what you might consider. It can definitely sway an election. I think my opponent, when he primaried 8 years ago, won by just a handful, 3 or 4 votes, if I remember. So a lot of votes could be relative to the race. But I think the way you fix that is you devote some resources to cleaning up the voter rolls. That's the biggest job of the county clerk, one of the biggest jobs. And there are mechanisms in place to do that. When someone dies, we're notified, that sort of thing. But if you die out of state, say you're on vacation, we don't necessarily get notified. There are certain times where you have to manually get in there and dedicate some resources to do that. The other side of it would be on the inside. And I think the biggest thing we can do is take our ballot counting out of the dark ages. Let me paint this for you. You remember the old movies where some guys are in a basement around a table with a single light smoking cigars, and in Pueblo they're counting ballots? That's kind of how it is here. And let me elaborate on that. The ballot counting happens on the bottom level of the elections division, away from the rest of the election division, away from the deconstruction of ballots. It happens by 2 county employees, not election judges. And it happens in a room with a chain across it, so they're not even allowed to go in. The public is barred from it. The only saving grace is a poll watcher if they want to stand outside the chained door. When I'm county clerk, that will end. We are going to bring that ballot counting machine out of that room. We're going to put it in view of the public, and we are going to use citizen election judges, not county employees, to count the ballots. And that will restore confidence.
Bo?
When he said the smoke-filled room, I kind of questioned that. They do smoke cigars, but they walk outside to do it. My 2 employees, there is a chain of custody that we have to pay attention to. We want to make the possibility of any irregularities very small. So there's one person, one judge, who is signed in with the Secretary of State's office per rule, per the law, and he has access to counting the votes, okay? So if there's a problem, that person is prosecuted because there's nobody else touching the ballots, okay? Now, you got to remember that judges, teams of judges, Democrats and Republicans, are the ones that are officiating this election. They're taking the ballots down, they're processing the ballots. They're not running them through the machines because they don't have a degree in IT, okay? These machines are very high tech. It kind of scares us if judges or the public was handling that. But we give full access to watchers to be able to watch every part of that process, and our office is completely transparent.
Well, I would argue that if it was completely transparent, the public would be able to watch it. That's how it happens in El Paso County. They have a fishbowl, they call it. It's a big room with windows. The public is invited. Pull up a chair, watch the ballots be counted. They have apparently a better training program because they trust their citizen election judges to run the counting machines. And that brings up another point of those citizen election judges. Each party, Democrat, Republican, and a third party, if there's a majority candidate, appoints their election judges, and they give a preference list to the county clerk of who they'd like. I would like Jim Bob to be the signature judge. And it's at the discretion of the county clerk to either allow that judge there or appoint his own and put someone else there. And to this point, I've never known one of my judges because it always goes to the guy he appoints. I would honor those preference lists. That is how you restore confidence. You give the parties who they want. And the argument has always been, well, they're not trained well enough. I'll provide the training. We will have better training.
Judges. So judges, we have caucuses, the Democrat and Republican caucus. At these caucuses, they fill out applications to become judges. And then the parties turn those applications into us, and that's the list that we have to hire first. Ms. Mizell turned in the judge list, and so we began working on it. The problem with the judge list that Ms. Mizell turned in is that most of the people on that list had no idea that they had signed up. And you know what else we found? We found that on the applications, they were all the same handwriting. How did that happen? How do you misspell your name when your name is Priscilla? How do you show up to the wrong precinct at a caucus and participate in that caucus? You're not supposed to be in that precinct. So why is that person signed up in the wrong precinct? So yeah, I did get that list. We did contact those judges, and guess what? 70% of them couldn't work or were surprised that they were on the list at all.
Last rebuttal, Victor.
It sounds like we had some disagreement on that in the audience. I would solve that by